Welcome in to episode 006 of the Modern Dealer Podcast. My name is David Farmer with Entice, and with me as always is David Bertoncini. Hey David, how are you?
I am good. I'm rolling in a little Latin train horn. I'm feeling that good today. For those that are watching or listening to our podcast, please be sure to, number one, make some comments.
Yep.
2, please share. 3, subscribe. And once you subscribe there, please turn on notifications so you are getting, every time we put out new content, you are getting those notifications and you know what's happening. And we appreciate you watching, listening, subscribing, sharing, caring, showing us the love.
Absolutely. We appreciate that. Please hit subscribe. Another just quick announcement. We are officially on Apple Podcasts now. If you are a podcast listener like I am, just go to Apple Podcasts, search out the Modern Dealer Podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. That would be absolutely fantastic. We would appreciate that.
And we have a Facebook page, too, that they can also hit us up on.
Facebook group. Facebook group.
Join the Facebook group.
Yep, the Modern Dealer Podcast Facebook group. You'll be able to participate there. We share a lot of content there along, throughout the week.
Mm-hmm. Any other platforms are we missing?
Right now, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. We are also starting this week. I'm going to be condensing each episode into a written blog post. So if you prefer reading the information, we're going to condense it down even a little bit further into a blog post, which we'll be able to share that on Facebook. We can share that on moderndealerpodcast.com.
There
we have our website as well.
That's the piece I was looking for, the moderndealerpodcast.com.
Yep.
So we got that. We've got the Facebook group. We've got YouTube. We've got, and we're sharing everywhere we can possibly share. And if you find it, no matter where you find us at, just hit us a like, a comment, a share. That's the way it helps this grow. And the bigger the audience, the better it is.
Absolutely. And also Instagram, you'll see underneath my name, underneath David's name, you're going to see our individual YouTube channels. You're going to see our Instagram and Facebook page. Please connect with us there. We'd love to be able to have some dialogue, have some messaging, ask questions, give us feedback so we can make this a better podcast. So we appreciate that. Before we get going, tell me a little bit about your coffee, David. I was pretty interested about that.
All right, so I was telling David before the show here about bulletproof coffee, and I learned of it from Jesse Eitzler. That is Sarah Blakely's husband. He is a triathlete, and he was talking about bulletproof coffee on one of his podcasts, and I was like, what is this stuff all about? So I guess the monks in the Himalayas discovered if adding to their coffee, they would add like a clump of fat, butter or lard or something to the coffee. I've got mine, David. I don't know if you can see the little the oil trail in my coffee, but I do have, it looks like an oil slick that it's hitting the top of my coffee, but it's good. It's supposed to help with focus. It's supposed to, so I should be spot on today. If I'm not, I only have to blame myself. I'm not going to blame the coffee. I'm not spot on. I mean, the coffee is there to assist, but I guess it's going to do what it can do.
Another thing, so our main topic is going to be the Google Marketing Live Event 2019 that was recorded in San Francisco a couple months ago. But before we get there, I do want to do a quick follow-up on our first episode. So episode 001. If you remember, that was Google My Business. So one of the things that I've done is I've taken Google My Business and created a position for the Modern Dealer Podcast Studio.
Oh.
So I just wanted to share. I think I have it right up here. Yesterday in the mail. So yesterday in the mail, I did receive the Google My Business verification code. This is what it looks like. It's going to get mailed directly to you. So if you have not created your Google My Business listing yet, you're able to do it. You can request the verification. It gets mailed to you. You go back and you go right to Google.com, verify my business. You type in the access code, which we've done. So what I can do, you cover your comment there real quick, is I can show you what it looks like.
So when you activate that now we can upload pictures. We can upload. Can we upload video to Google My
absolutely.
Business? Okay, so little snippets. Is there a time restriction on those videos? Like
I haven't noticed
seconds
one yet at
Okay.
all. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just went to Google Maps and typed in the Modern Dealer Podcast, and you'll see. Boom! It zooms in right there.
Bam!
There we are.
That pops up. Fancy that. Oh, look at it. Well, now look, hold on. Wait, scroll back up because you got a picture on there. So you got a picture of the mic, and yeah, look at that. So your business, your dealership should be looking like that. Look at the pictures.
So you can see that's what the studio looked like for episode 2. It's changed a little bit. We keep on adding a little bit more each week, but I uploaded some pictures here.
That Pennzoil truck looks huge
Isn't
in the
that
pictures.
good?
I mean, he's
looks
like just a little 5-inch truck, but I think it's gigantic in that picture, man. That's a good. Is that an iPhone picture?
Yep, you gotta love the
Isn't
iPhone.
that amazing when you now for people who don't know how to set the iPhone to portrait?
Yep.
Portrait takes the most badass pictures possible. I've taken pictures of a 98 4Runner and made it look like it was like a 2020 4Runner. I mean, just like wow. I mean, the pictures really popped. The background was blurred, just like the picture of the microphone you see on your screen right now. When you do that, that just makes.
I mean, it's just it just creates beautiful photos, and this is something that you should be doing as a dealer, as a salesperson, as a sales manager. Is if you don't already have an Instagram account, create one. If you have an Instagram account and you don't feel comfortable sharing that, create another one for you as a salesperson, as a business.
There's a business Instagram account you can do.
There you go.
Yeah. So Instagram has a business setting that you can when you create a second account that operates from the same email if you choose from that first Instagram account, or you can just make a and you can add additional Instagram. You can add multiple Instagram accounts, but then you just do one just strictly for business, and you can call it David's Dealer or Modern Dealer Podcast Instagram, or just like my oh man, look at it, Back to the Future, Marty McFly. You squeezed him into the DeLorean. He is. Yeah, that's just some amazing pictures.
Yeah,
but no, you can do that, and it's pretty good stuff. So
a lot of good information there. Okay, so wanted to share that with you. So we got the Google My Business listing set up for the Modern Dealer Podcast. You can check it out. You maybe get some good ideas, examples, how we've created some posts, how we've added some video, added some different content available there. So it's very simple to do. It's a great platform. I did this all this morning before the show.
And like the fans of this show, if you see how we're growing the show, is like you should be growing your platforms yourself, like your Google My Business. You can be growing your Facebook. You can grow your YouTube. You can grow everything just on some of the tips that we give you. In addition to every week, it's like, oh hey, maybe I should focus this week on some LinkedIn posts.
Yes,
it just gives you an opportunity just to grow all these different platforms and. Take it from us. I mean, we're watching everything grow before our eyes.
Yes, absolutely. It's extremely exciting. One of the things that I'm doing with my Twitter account is, and I'll share that again right underneath me, the Twitter handle, so you can find it. But every single day, I am sharing a social media for sales. Social media tip for salespeople every single day. Small. I mean, it's 140 characters or less, right? It's a simple tip that you can take and engage that day. That every single day. You can do one more little piece of social media content to help you grow your own personal brand, so you can become more successful as a salesperson. You can become more successful as a sales manager. So please follow me on Twitter, sharing that information as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our first part of the main topic, and this is the Google Marketing Live 2019 Think Auto event. As always, I'm going to share this slideshow as a public document in our show notes. In every way that you can consume the podcast. So that's going to be available to you. I'm including a link directly to that information, the Google My Business account. But let's get into what is Google Marketing Live. So let me just read this to our audience real quick, David. The Google Marketing Live event is an annual event in San Francisco. It was conducted in March of this year. This event is where Google shares its newest ads innovations and to help meet heightened consumer expectations by being there, being useful, and being responsible. The two-day event featured key speakers from industry experts in travel, finance, retail, and what we will focus on, auto. Now, there is a ton of content here, so we're definitely not going to be able to cover everything. We're going to do a very high-level overview, but we're going to supply all of the links to the content. So that's something you want to dig a little bit deeper on. Then we're going through the podcast today. Please follow the links in our documents. Our goal really is to provide an overview of the key information that's shared by 4 speakers. Plus, I'm going to wrap up at the end to share 3 new Google Ad features that you should be aware of.
My favorite speaker was Dr. Ruth.
Dr. Ruth.
It is not the Dr. Ruth that we're all thinking of, but yes, she is a female German lady from Germany. And I was like, Dr. Ruth? I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah.
But she was the most informative, though.
Oh, she was.
She's on point, man. She's not, she's 20 years in the business herself. So, she's no amateur to the game. So
no, and she really looks at the industry really from a different angle than we typically do from the retail side or the tier 3 side, looking at the industry globally as a whole and really where the direction is going. Before we get into Dr. Ruth, let's take a minute and just go over our first the first speaker during the Marketing Live event, and that was from Adam Stewart, VP at Google for Auto, among other things. And some of the key takeaways that I found from this, David, is that he kicked off his conversation by talking about other industries where they have innovated and have had a ton of success. For example, he talked about Best Buy. What I really liked about when he talked about Best Buy is creating a better in-store experience, aligning the marketing to business outcomes.
So, Best Buy at that time, it was in 2011, he was referring to that their stock would dropped all the way down to like $12 a share. It seemed like Best Buy was going through some trouble, but they had to kind of restructure the company, mostly through just training their personnel to be more of a product expert on each of these, on mobile, on desktop, on and then of course all the other departments, your TV departments and entertainment departments and such like that is what I gathered from his what he delivered. What he was talking about, how they changed that company and had to completely.
And what's really interesting too, is you think about it, look at Best Buy's competitor, Circuit City, shuttered.
Adios.
Yeah, you look at almost every other siloed retail industry have just been crushed by Amazon and online retailing. But Best Buy, they're thriving. They talked about their stock going all the way down to $12 a share. They're trading, I think, in the 80s range right now. So it's 4 times increase. So not only are they surviving, but they're thriving and really focusing in on the in-store experience and aligning the marketing to that. And I think that's it's a lesson that dealers can take, is how can they align their in-store experience to their marketing and to how customers want to buy cars today.
Well, their online experience to transition into that. And what I had noticed is, as myself as a consumer walking into Best Buy, I'll go into Best Buy to actually touch a product, and to actually purchase a product, usually I'll go on to Amazon, but Best Buy will match you to show them, hey, this is the price on Amazon. They'll match it right there on the spot. They're like, okay, it's $20 less on Amazon, no problem. We'll go ahead and do that. No questions asked. They just want to make sure it's the exact same model you're looking at. It's a 12-foot cable or whatever you're purchasing in there on site, like our Lightning C adapters I had purchased right there at the store, because I was like, man, I can get it tomorrow from Amazon, but I'm here now and I'm on my way to the show. I need that Lightning C connector, and they match the price. So
Yeah, it's very cool.
Good job, Best Buy.
Yeah, I like it. I like Best Buy. I buy a lot of my stuff there. I mean, if it's not something that I want to touch and feel and learn more about, I'll buy it from Amazon. I can get it the next day. It's a great experience. We all know that. But if it's something that I want to look at and touch, maybe ask some questions, Best Buy is the place. Another company that they talked about that has had some great success today is Domino's. I thought it was funny that one of the things he said is that at the time, their reputation for the quality of their pizza was on par with
Chuck E. Cheese.
Chuck E. Cheese. And if you've had Chuck E. Cheese pizza, I have to say, it's not good.
Frozen pizza's better.
Yeah, really. One of the things that they did is they focused on becoming a tech company that sells pizza. I love that concept. And I think that's a concept that dealers can adapt. Mm-hmm. We're talking about retailers, talking about tier 3 retailers, but why not have, how can dealerships thrive today? Well, if they think of themselves as a tech company that sells cars, and you don't have to be a tech company that builds cars or makes cars, but a tech company that sells cars. I think just having that ideology can really change the way that you look at your business.
That's a good point.
And they've had 7 years of growth.
Yeah.
Year-over-year growth.
Orders that cost 75% less. So when he said that at first, I didn't get it. It's like a tech company that sells pizza, and I'm like, oh, all right, I see what you're saying, because they're always pushing, go onto the Domino's app, order online. So Pizza Tracker. So features like that, which are great. Which now you look at the premise of our show, the Modern Dealer Podcast. You're looking at other dealers which are going without a salesperson. Or going completely digital, and buy 100% online with a 0% salesperson, which we don't want.
Well, what's interesting too is with Domino's specifically, they talk about 7 years of growth and what they've done over the past 7 years to change their business. Just think about where we were in 2012. Ordering a pizza online on your phone was an odd experience. You weren't really buying anything online in 2012.
Right.
So becoming that one player that really pioneered ordering food online,
right.
Making online orders for something that you might not typically do, I think that really allowed them to to have the 7 years of growth that they've had, as being that pioneer and being a tech company that sells pizza.
Open the doors for a bunch of other industries, Uber Eats and
yes,
such.
Exactly.
And the funny thing is, going back to, and this will be my final conversation about the pizza, but that time in 2012 when they were doing that, somebody bought a pizza with a Bitcoin. I think it was 10,000 Bitcoin back in the day.
Oh, wow.
It was 10,000 Bitcoin for that pizza, which today Bitcoin is $10,500. That would have been I think it's $100 million pizza they paid for back then in 2012 when they could have ordered from Domino's and paid with Bitcoin.
Wow. Incredible. Incredible. Well, I tell you, David, it has been probably about 15 minutes, our first segment. I wanted to get a little bit further along, but hey, it's a great first segment. We're going to go ahead and break, and then we're going to pick up where we left off, probably with Dr. Ruth.
Dr. Ruth.
Welcome back into the second segment of the Modern Dealer Podcast, episode 006. Today we are talking about Google Marketing Live, and we are, let me get back
into
here.
Dr. Ruth Heas. She's actually, when you watch her, the video of this was it really quiet?
It was very
like
quiet.
So quiet, and you have to turn it way loud to get the message. But we're gonna recap everything that she went over, just the highlights, the things that really seem to resonate with David and I. We're gonna recap all that, but she was. I was saying earlier, she's
brilliant.
Spot on. She's really intelligent, giving us a completely different point of view on her aspect of it. So
yeah, and I think that most of the information that we look at as dealers, salespeople, sales managers. We're looking at this business from a retail perspective, from a tier 3 perspective. She's really given a perspective more from a global auto industry standpoint. Just a little bit of information about her. Senior partner at McKinsey, who specializes in global auto industry. She's going to share perspectives on the macro shifts transforming the industry and the implications for marketers across tiers. And that was one of the main themes of the entire Google Marketing Live event was marketing across tiers, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And just as taking a moment to explaining the different tiers, if you're not familiar with that terminology, tier 1 is the auto manufacturer. Tier 2 is the region. So if you're, Southern Ford dealers, for example, and then tier 3 is the retail dealership. That's where you work, is right at the retail dealership. So looking at this from a marketing standpoint across tiers, the first thing that she starts to talk about is really where Wall Street is betting as far as on the automotive industry, and they're betting on innovation. She equated this based on the valuation of the brand versus the earnings, which is commonly called multiples. Looking at where the value of companies, where Wall Street are saying, hey, Tesla's extremely valuable. We really are excited about the direction they're going. And because of that, they get a 25 times earnings valuation. Now, we all understand how important Tesla is to the automotive industry, but they're not selling nearly as many cars as Volkswagen or as Toyota or BMW. But you look at their valuation versus a company like Toyota, which, the revenue that they have compared to Tesla is, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's multiple times higher. Toyota has a 5.8 multiple valuation versus earnings, where Tesla has 25 times. I think the reason that she's sharing this information is that the way the future of this industry is innovation. And in what specific areas can we talk about from an innovation standpoint? And that brings me to her slide, which the first was electrification. So one of the most important things that's driving and disrupting the automotive industry is electrification. You look at what Tesla is doing right now. But so for example, let's take a second and let's talk about Tesla before we move into the other. Let's just not glaze over it, which I was going to do, but let's just take a minute. So Tesla is a company that has been around since the mid 2000s. They came out with their first vehicle, which was the Roadster. Mm-hmm. Their goal, Elon Musk's goal with creating the Roadster, was to create a high profit margin vehicle to allow him to gain enough revenue to be able to create his next model, which was the Model S. He created the Model S, again, a luxury sedan, high revenue vehicle, giving him the opportunity to build enough profit, to build enough cash flow to be able to generate his next vehicle. Now, his next vehicle, he was going to create the Model 3, and that's why they call it Model 3, because he wanted to create a $35,000 Tesla. Ended up being his fourth vehicle because he came out with an SUV based on the Model S, the Model X. So anyway, now they just recently released the Model 3, and they're doing it without dealers. They're doing it where the manufacturer is selling direct to consumer. So that's one of the disruptions that is moving the industry, is this whole new model of not having franchises, which is a way that's going to disrupt the automotive industry from a retailer standpoint. Talking about not having retail locations, which is currently the franchise model. Electrification isn't only something that is something you can talk about Tesla, even though there's a great conversation there, but other manufacturers are moving in that direction. I think Toyota is a great example.
They just came out with a Corolla hybrid, a hybrid Corolla. Yep. They have a hybrid Highlander. They have a hybrid RAV4. So a lot of their vehicles have gone hybrid. And of course, Toyota had rolled out the Prius back in 2001. 99. Is that when the Prius came out? The little bubble, you know, hideous looking beast that thing was. But
I have to remember. I have to tell the story. So I remember when the Prius first hit our showroom floor at Sutherland Toyota. I don't know if you remember this, but we had it out on that front deck. And one of the things that we used to do to new salespeople is to ask them to go plug it in overnight, so we were able to have the vehicle driven,
charged up for the morning, right? Which for those that don't know that car, there was no plug-in. I mean, nowadays, you plug in a car to charge it, but it was like when I was in the military. Hey, go get 50 feet of flight line, and flight line is actually where the planes land, or you park. I'm sorry, where you park the plane. So we're like 50 feet of flight line, but it's the same thing you do with the new salesperson. But the car was, it was an innovator at its time, and people. And I know she talks about the electrification of, Volkswagen's getting heavy into it, Audi, other manufacturers, Volkswagen, Audi, same thing, other manufacturers getting into the electrification of vehicles. And it's just it's mind blowing because the environmental requirements that are coming up by 2025
exactly
that all these manufacturers have to meet. So either they get in or they're going to be penalized for not having all these electric vehicles. But I mean the choices are growing. I just saw what did I see the other day, which I was shocked that was they had a plug-in version of. I think it was an Audi. Somebody in my building. The e-tron?
Yep.
Yeah, and then somebody in my building, and I was like, oh, wow, it's a new
Tony
Audi
Stark's
with
car.
Tony Stark's car,
That's what he was driving in Endgame.
And that's, it was a good-looking car, so beautiful machine. Yep. But yeah, the electrification is...
And I think Volvo is going to 100% electric in the next 5 to 7 years. So it's a lot of disruptions from an electrification standpoint. She also talked about shared mobility, so what Uber is doing in the space, other companies like Uber, where ride-sharing infrastructure is going to be in place. A lot of millennials now are not even interested in purchasing vehicles. I know 2 or 3 people, myself personally, that have no interest in getting a driver's license or driving a vehicle. They got my phone. I got Uber. It takes me where I want to go, and they're done. So I think a lot of people are moving in that direction. We're not going to spend much more on that. I wanted to kind of click all the way through and get to the digitization of the customer journey, which I thought was extremely interesting in how she positioned it in. Here's somebody that is looking at the automotive industry as a whole globally, not just from a retailing standpoint, but from a manufacturing standpoint, and looking at the future growth of the industry. And she put as one of 5 areas the digitalization of the digitization of the customer journey. So you compare that to electrification or autonomous driving, it almost doesn't seem to fit. But I think it is so interesting, and it is something that a retailer has the ability to move in that direction. And we're talking about online retailing. We're talking about digital retailing. We're talking about taking the customer and taking digital communication elements into that sales, that customer journey. So not just the sales process, not just, hey, I want to buy it now, but we talked about video test drives during the break. Yeah. And that is an area right there. That's a part of the digitization of the customer journey. More customers are taking video test drives than actual test drives. That's one of the things that she talked about as well, is that customers already know what they want by the time they get into a dealership. They do still want to go to a dealership. They want to touch the car. They want to ask a couple specific questions, and then they want to purchase.
Which that that whole experience now, they said, they'll spend, was it 14 hours? I know we're going to get into that, but about 14 hours. They're spending 14 hours looking, shopping for vehicles. And she had said that experience is still not the best experience at all.
Yeah.
Transitioning from that 14 hours into the showroom. So customers have an idea. They already know what they want. They don't need a salesperson to really slow them down and hey, let's start this whole process all over. But it's definitely a shorter period of time in your showroom. So that's why you're down to one visit.
Changed. It's changed. Back when we were selling cars, back when most sales managers were learning the business, they learned it in the 90s and the 2000s. Today's sales process is different. The way that we learned the business is that customers would come in to the dealership, they would ask for brochures, they would ask information about the vehicle because there's no other place to get it. They couldn't go to Toyota.com in 1996 and have that rich experience, all that video content. And what she's explaining based on the research that they've done is that most people, on average, they're spending 14 hours online researching their purchase. They find that the experience at the dealership is frustrating. She finds that customers still want to look at the car, maybe schedule a test drive from the dealership's website for a particular vehicle, and she's finding that that's not available right now. That customers are doing all this time on researching. They know what vehicle they want to buy. They know what trim level. They know what what features are available in the different trim levels. And then they start to search out the dealership, and all that research is not translating into what's happening on the dealership showroom. So there's the opportunity on what salespeople can do, dealerships can do, is they can really re-engineer the sales process for buyers in 2020 and beyond.
So you're saying we learned in the 90s. So our process was qualify the customers, sit down and go through, the roads to the sale. You need to qualify the customer. You need to take them on a test drive. That road to the sale has changed. Yep. So when the customer does come in, they've gathered all this information online. They know what they want. They'll come in and they'll give you the stock number. It's like, hey, stock number, B63418. I saw it online, and they know exactly what they want.
Yeah, the XT1 package. Yeah. It has the sunroof. It has the leather. It has these packages. That's the vehicle that I want. Right?
That's the one they want. And they say, hey, Miss Customer, not a problem. Instead of, like Grant Cardone says, hey, let's just move in the direction when the customer wants to go. Still, we have a process to take them through, but let's not try to qualify the customer and let's fill out a credit application. They still have dealers now.
How much you want to put down? How much you want to pay per month?
I don't get it. Why are you still doing that?
Yeah,
why are they still doing that nowadays?
Yeah.
They should be just driving them right down the road to the sale, the way the customer wants to go, the way they experienced the vehicle online. They did their digital test drive. They configured their deal online. They're coming into the store to basically do business. Mm-hmm. They're there to transact. They're not there to kick tires like they used to when they're visiting 5 stores back when you and I were selling cars and they had the yellow pad out and they're writing down everything. They're collecting. They got a stack of brochures. Or I love the customer when you go to appraise their car and they had a stack of brochures on the passenger seat of like 15 stores they visited. And I'm like,
and people would come in and they would say, hey, I'm going to look at the Camry here, and then I'm going to go down and look at the Honda Accord, and then I'm going to go to Nissan and look at the Altima, and then I'm going to make a decision which vehicle I want to buy. They're not doing that anymore. They're doing all of that
at home,
online, and then they said, I want the Camry, but I want to make sure that the vehicle, that it's going to be comfortable, that I fit in it. And if I fit in it fine, and it's a comfortable vehicle, then I'm going to go ahead and that's going to be the car that I want to buy. And if I'm going to buy one, I want to buy this specific vehicle, which is on your lot. And so, and I think this kind of goes back to at a point that we were talking a couple episodes back, is that there has to be a transition from a product specialist to a process specialist, understanding how customers are engaging online, changing the way that you communicate with the customer and asking questions about what research they've done instead of how that person can help guide the customer into the right vehicle. Because we used to say, are you looking for a 2-door or 4-door, something bigger or smaller? Are you looking for something
Leather,
good gas?
cloth.
Yeah, those kind of things. We don't have to ask those questions anymore.
No.
But we ask, how many vehicles did you consider before landing on the Camry?
Right.
Do you feel that the XLE is the vehicle that you're interested in? And those are the process, the process touch points on how a dealership can re-engineer the sales process. So what we're going to do now, I think that's a lot of great information. Let's go ahead and take a break. It's going to be our second break, and we're going to move into the last segment of the Modern Dealer Podcast when we come back. Welcome back into the third segment of episode 006 of the Modern Dealer Podcast. We were last talking about Dr. Ruth and what she was sharing during the Google Marketing Live Think Auto event. I'm just going to hit a couple of these highlights, and I want to move into the next speaker because I think there's some good information that we can look at. But 70% of customers disagree with companies claiming to be customer-centric. So this is Gen Y. We're talking about millennials as they are looking at purchasing vehicles. There was another statistic in our episode last week with the 2019 Buyer's Journey Study where they said that 61% of customers are unhappy with their latest shopping experience. And now this study is saying that 70% of customers disagree with companies saying that they are customer-centric. So customer-centric meaning that they provide a good experience, that they've created a process around how the customer want to buy cars. I mean, 70%, that's a big number. So that just goes to show that only 30% of the customers are happy with their purchase experience. That gives dealers a big opportunity to re-engineer their sales process to meet the way customers want to buy cars.
Re-engineering the sales process, I feel that would be the most important thing that today a dealer can do today. It's like, let's look at our process. Do we still need to sit down and qualify a customer? Do we still need to go through all those or all those old steps in that road to the sale? Let's kind of re-engineer things. I know a dealer today that still wants to do a trade appraisal at the second to last step before they present figures. So let's appraise their car now.
Yeah,
like,
so
really?
we can take a 30-minute break while the customer is just sitting there when they only want to spend 45 minutes with the customer. And that actually brings a good point. I'm gonna move into Kyle. Kyle is an industry director at Google for automotive. And two things that you mentioned, David, tie into exactly what Kyle was saying. What Kyle was saying that he was really there to introduce the next speaker from FCA Global, talking about how Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 work together. He started the conversation during his session based on his last two purchase experiences, right?
Interesting.
And he was looking at an Alfa Romeo, and he's looking at a
Tesla.
And he looked at the Alfa Romeo experience more as a traditional sales process that took a long time. One of the big disconnects that he had in that purchase experience is he spent many hours. I want to say that he explained that he had invested 9 hours into configuring the vehicle, selecting the vehicle that he wanted to buy, registering that configuration on the manufacturer's website, submitted a lead to the dealership, scheduled an appointment with the dealership. He walked in, and then what happened?
They didn't know, like, what? What deal did you configure? You're who, and why are you here? I guess you're here to purchase a vehicle. So all that work he did online did not relay over to the dealer.
It didn't translate at all.
The Tier 1 work didn't make it to Tier 3.
Yeah.
There was a disconnect between those two pieces there, which was shocking. But his Tesla experience, two completely different animals. And basically, 45 minutes he was in and out. He knew what he wanted. He said he basically purchased the vehicle. The only issue that he had was the actual delivery of was it the Tesla? He said
getting the car. I think
getting the car
the
is
length of time it took for Tesla to actually deliver the vehicle that he wanted, that he configured. But once they finally were able to get the car built and set up for delivery, his purchase experience, as you said, 45 minutes in and out. That included all the paperwork and going over the delivery, the features, the functions, and benefits, right?
A lot of features on that vehicle.
Yeah.
That takes a while. And that's where you are borderline product specialist, but also process specialist. I mean, more process than Tesla.
And most people already know all of the features. So they say, yeah, I know that. Yes, I know that. Yes, I know that. Especially the Tesla customers, right? They're spending hours online learning about all the features. That's why they're deciding to buy something like the Tesla. But I think a great example, polar opposites of a traditional sales process on how nothing is translating to the analog experience the customer is having in the dealership showroom from their digital experience, and one that meets exactly what the customer's expectation is. I'm going to do all this research. I expect everything to translate. So when I get to the dealership, they know what car it is. I know how much I want to spend. I know what my monthly payment's going to be. I know what my credit score is. I know about what my trade value is worth. So we move that up into the process.
Right.
So we're more effective with their time, re-engineering the sales process for 2020 and beyond.
So it'd be like me going onto my Domino's app and ordering a pepperoni pizza, and
Exactly.
nothing showed up but some chicken wings later. I'm like, what? But I ordered pepperoni pizza.
Yeah.
It happened to me from experience the other night.
Uh-oh.
They delivered a cheese pizza. I'm like, seriously? Come on, this is not Chuck E. Cheese, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, so there was So the other piece that I wanted to just chat about Kyle is he was talking about how tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, where the responsibility is in the marketing to consumers. Tier 3's responsibility is to drive action. What does that mean? It means getting the customer into the dealership and closing out the buying process, where tier 1 and tier 2 is really creating the awareness. So all of these things are connected. So last week we talked about the 2019 buyer's journey. The week before that, we talked about tying that customer journey to the marketing with the micro moments, right? So the micro moments, we're talking about that here from an awareness standpoint, a consideration standpoint, how that moves into the micro moments of, is this the right car for me? Is this a vehicle that I can afford? Where do I want to buy the vehicle? That ties into our next speaker, Tom Laymack, who is the global director of digital for Fiat Chrysler globally, right? So his perspective is from a global standpoint, not just a U.S. standpoint, but specifically just for the digital aspects. The one key thing that I got from him is really looking at how to drive growth in that cross-tier coordination, and really where the responsibility lies between tier 1 and tier 3. So tier 1, answering questions like, what do I want to buy? Where am I going to do my research? Where am I going to do my configuration? That really is a tier 1 responsibility. That's not something that a tier 3 dealer really should be advertising for or trying to answer the questions. They shouldn't be creating awareness for the new models that are coming out. That's much further back in the buyer's journey. When a customer is ready to purchase a vehicle, that is when a dealership should be connecting with the customers. That's when a dealership should be in the path to purchase. So once I've made a decision, this is the type of vehicle, or at least it's on my consideration list, that's the dealership I want to do business with. So do you have what I want? Do you have it at a good price? Where do I want to buy it? want. And the responsibility of a dealership's digital platform is to be able to generate high converting leads, being able to give those customers quotes, and then ultimately get that customer into the dealership. So looking at that from a digital standpoint, I think those are questions that you need to ask yourself and your marketing teams. Are we doing this? Are we generating high quality leads? Do we have an easy process on our dealership website to give a customer a quote, a transparent quote? Do you have any digital retailing activities, technology to be able to quote a payment, to get their credit score, to look at finance products, to really have full aspects of the purchase process online, so we can move them and get that customer into the dealership showroom.
Transparency.
Yep.
Complete transparency in the process. That if having this transparency at a tier 3 level, that's like I said, that's where the transaction is going to happen. You're going to take the bus. That's where the
disruption should be taking place, right? A dealership is not going to have any impact on whether or not the next vehicle is going to be an electric vehicle or not. The dealership, the salesperson, is going to have no impact on whether or not they're going to sell a fleet of vehicles to Uber, right? They're not going to have any impact on the software that's going to go into autonomous driving, right? Where a dealership is going to have impact is on the ability to digitize the sales journey, right? And so that's going to be the responsibility of tier 3. That's going to be the responsibility of the dealership. So we know that 80% of digital sales are coming from a dealership's website. So customers are looking at your dealership's website as a way to engage in purchase activity, purchase research. So not the OEM. I thought that was an interesting statistic that he covered. 80% of the digital sales come from a dealership's website. So then it moves into, so what could a dealership start to do to focus on digitizing the sales process from a marketing standpoint? And that's where it really ties into Google, right? Not just from a search ads standpoint, but certainly that is a big area where you can put yourself into the path to purchase, but also looking at utilizing display and video. The 360 platform is the Google marketing platform that Google utilizes. It's their enterprise level search tools. It's going to give a little bit more targeting capability than just Google Ads by themselves, or being able to place a display and video ads through the Google Ads platform. And that's why they're bringing this up from a global standpoint. But you still have the ability to gain access to these types of tools in a consolidated manner. And I think that's the big takeaway that you want to look at here, is making sure that your search ads, your display and video ads are all, and Google Analytics, are all being utilized together. So you're utilizing the strength of what you're doing in search with your video and display ads. Now, what I mean by that, just like one aspect of that, is you can create specific audiences from your search ads that you can ultimately show display ads or video ads to. You can also use Google Analytics to be able to track and create first-party audiences, such as a retargeting audience, which we talked about last episode. So if a customer visits your dealership website, they look at that Camry XLE with the XT1 package and the sunroof and the leather interior. That's the vehicle a customer has interest in, that you retarget that customer with that vehicle. So you're connecting with them. You couldn't do that if you're not using Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager in a way with your Google Display and your Google Video. So those are some interesting ways you can use Google to market and make sure you are in the path to purchase for your customer.
I like that tagline, path to purchase.
Path to purchase. and putting yourself in the path to purchase. I think the idea is a really cool idea, right?
It is a good idea, and a lot of dealers are putting themselves into the detour to purchase, or the road to the sale's got a lot of roadblocks in it. But that path to the purchase, you got to tagline that, David. I think that's going to be your new tagline there. The path to the purchase.
Yep, I think so. I think it's very good. Another couple key highlights that he talked about during his time on the stage was making sure you review your KPIs and really understand what you're looking at from a key performance indicator standpoint. He used the example of search terms that might deliver a high CTR. For example, if you use Jeep Grand Cherokee as a search term, you might be able to get a high click-through rate, which is the CTR. If you have a high click-through rate, maybe your search provider is saying you should be investing in this search term because you're going to have a high click-through rate. But the reality in his example is those may have a high click-through rate, but they were not high converting. And if it's your responsibility to convert to convert leads from your marketing to drive traffic to your dealership showroom, you should not be only looking at CTR as a key performance indicator. You should be looking at how to create more high converting search terms.
With those search terms being the keywords, and the keywords, if your keywords are just like your manufacturer, then you're competing with your own manufacturer. He had mentioned that in his time on stage.
Big takeaway. Yes.
Yeah, it's a big takeaway. So how do you differentiate yourself with these other, not using the same keywords that your manufacturer is using, but I think he was talking about the Jeep, the Wrangler, or was it the Grand
the Wrangler?
He was talking about the Wrangler, but you have to go to like Wrangler Drive Experience versus being Jeep Wrangler. So you'd have to actually add those long tail keywords to the search in order to pop up to bring, now you're bringing not just the click-through rate, but you want to bring them actually to the showroom. I mean, that's going to be something that's going to drive traffic to the store.
Right. So here's a guy that's in charge of millions of dollars of advertising, much of that in search. And what he's saying is that he has created a search strategy for Tier 1 and Tier 3 that uses the micro moments strategy. So we talk about area of responsibility, where Tier 1's responsibility is, from an awareness consideration standpoint, looking at the micro moments. And actually, I have this slide from last episode where we talked about the first two steps of the micro moments. Which car is best for me? Is it right for me moments? That's not your responsibility. So his strategy is dealerships should be using and answering the questions: can I afford it? Where should I buy it? Am I getting a good deal? Those are the micro moments that you should be creating your search strategy around to drive high converting leads and get customers to the dealership's showroom, and provide tools where a customer can discover that a vehicle is affordable to them, that they're getting a good deal, that they're able to research all of the finance products. They're able to research all of the different incentives that are available, which ones are going to apply to them.
Lowest cost Jeep Wrangler in Tampa Bay. As I said, can I afford it? Where should I buy it? I said most Jeep Wranglers in inventory in Tampa Bay. So that's good. That's once again adding that long tail, those keywords. Am I getting a good deal? So, using those, add that to their keywords would be a huge help.
Yep, absolutely. So the last thing that he kind of wrapped up was the value of site speed. There was a question from the audience asking, what is the value of site speed? And the one thing that I thought was really cool, the big takeaway for me, was build for the small screen and allow it to adapt to the large.
Build it for mobile.
he said that over a year and a half ago, we moved through the point where there is more mobile than desktop or laptop. So you have to build for the small screen and then allow it to adapt into the large. And then, of course, site speed. Make sure that you're checking your site speed for mobile speed and for usability. And we did this determine last episode that your mobile website should be loading in 3 seconds or less, or more than 50% of your visitors are bouncing. What I'm going to do is let's move into what did we learn. I know we're a little bit long on this episode or this segment, but we're going to get things start to get wrapped up. So the first one, David, why don't you let us know what that is?
Well, like Best Buy and Domino's, better in-store experience. Be a tech company that sells cars. Look at your key performance indicators, innovative marketing techniques, digital, search, display, video. Video is my favorite word is video. Look at your measurements. Just make sure you're looking at the right key indicators for your measurement there.
Exactly. And then moved into embrace innovation. Dr. Ruth, digitization of the sales process is one of the only things that a dealership can control, making sure that you create a unique selling proposition around the ease of purchase at your dealership. Make sure that you are keying in on what the customer really wants, where currently most experiences are frustrating. The customers still want to see the car and they do want to ask specific questions. So your digital retailing process should be a balance between digital retailing and analog retailing in your dealership showroom. And then the third big takeaway that we took?
Tier 3, responsibility to drive action, as we're talking about from the marketing standpoint, making sure that we're driving those customers to your showroom. Align the search strategy with micro moments, as we covered those micro moments from last week. Answer questions related to dealer influence. Generate high converting leads, give them a quote, get them to the dealership as the 90s managers and managers from the 80s.
Just get them
into the store.
Just get them in.
But you got to give them a reason with the information. As Grant would say in the 90s, give. We're doing this. We're still doing the process, but we're doing it in a completely different way.
Yep.
All through digital, all through giving the customer what they want, but leading them down the path to the sale.
Yep, absolutely. So there's a couple bonus features real quick. So since this was a Google event and it's really designed for customers to use Google, Google creates its ability to grow its revenue based on advertising. So in this event, they did share some innovations. They had some pretty cool things. I'm including the links to YouTube videos and specific points in the video where you can learn more about these new features. Real quick, take a look at gallery ads. It's almost like creating an Instagram post in an ad itself, utilizing images. Really cool. It's in beta right now. It's going to be awesome for car dealers. Another new innovation is audio ad inventory, where Google is going to be able to allow you to create audio and manage your audio ads in Google AdWords or Google Marketing Platform itself. Think about this as non-radio spots. Where else can you have audio content? Podcasts, Spotify, all the other digital music platforms. Mm-hmm. You're going to be able to advertise through Google directly with the audio ad inventory. Again, something else that's in beta. And then the last piece was the bumper machine. This is where YouTube has created this new bumper machine. You can basically take a 30, 60, or 90-second video spot, drop it into their bumper machine, and it will create multiple 6-second bumper ads, which we talked about in episode 2, YouTube, where you have a 6-second bumper ad. You can have at the beginning, middle, or end of a video, and the bumper machine actually gives you a very easy way to create compelling 6-second videos utilizing machine learning, artificial intelligence, all that fun stuff that Google does so well. So that really brings us to the end. It probably brings you to the end of your coffee. I know mine is cooling down right now.
Bulletproof coffee is gross when it's cold. They do sell it at Walmart, I think, as a cold version, but I'm out.
Yep.
I'm definitely not going to buy that one. I'll keep it fresh from my local coffee shop, and the local one today was Black Crow Coffee, located in St. Pete. Black Crow Coffee, if you guys are watching, love you.
On that note, this is a wrap.